Headlights blurred across the rain-soaked highway. A minivan sat stranded, its hood steaming, children pressed to the foggy glass. Cars sped by, horns blaring, no one stopping. A mother's hand trembled on the wheel, whispering, "Please, someone help us." Then, faint at first, the thunder of engines grew closer. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching this from? And if you enjoy our stories, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss another story of resilience and human kindness. The stretch of Interstate 41 outside the small town of Pine Hollow was merciless at night. Rain fell in silver sheets, splashing against cracked pavement. Emily Hayes sat behind the wheel of her aging Dodge Caravan, 3 kids asleep in the back, exhaustion etched into her every line. Her husband had passed 2 winters ago, leaving her with bills stacked like towers and a van that coughed more than it purred. When smoke burst from the hood, her heart sank. She coasted to the shoulder, flashers blinking red into the storm. For half an hour, headlights streaked by. Some slowed to stare, others honked, but no one stopped. Emily pressed her forehead to the steering wheel. Her youngest stirred in the car seat and whimpered, "Mommy?" She forced a smile, though tears streaked her cheeks. "It's okay, baby. It's okay." But deep down, she feared it wasn't. The interstate howled with indifference. Tractor-trailers blasted through puddles, their mist drenching Emily's windshield. Her phone flickered at 2% battery, no signal. She thought about walking, but with 3 children, ages 8, 5, and 2, she couldn't. She glanced into the rearview mirror. Liam, her eldest, rubbed his eyes, sensing her fear. "Nobody's stopping, huh?" he whispered. She shook her head. "Not yet." A sedan slowed in the fast lane, headlights sweeping across their van. For a second, Emily's heart leaped, maybe this time. But the car accelerated, tires hissing, leaving nothing but a spray of water. Rage boiled inside her chest. Did no one care anymore? She wanted to scream. Instead, she lay her head against the cold glass and listened to her children's soft breathing, praying into the storm. That's when she felt it, a subtle vibration through the road. Deep. Rhythmic. Like approaching thunder. At first, Emily thought it was trucks. But as the sound grew clearer, it wasn't a single engine, it was many. The roar swelled, layered and relentless, echoing off the trees. Her children stirred, wide-eyed. Liam pressed his palms to the glass. "Mom, what is that?" she whispered. Then they appeared, floodlights catching chrome, rows of headlights cutting through the storm. Leather vests, steel frames, rain streaking across polished helmets. Dozens of motorcycles surged together like a storm tide. Emily's heart froze. She had heard stories of biker gangs, violent, dangerous. Panic clawed at her chest. She locked the doors, clutching the wheel with trembling hands. The roar grew until it swallowed the night, shaking the van's frame. Her daughters whimpered. Liam squeezed her arm. "It's okay, Mom," he said, though his voice shook. In the side mirror, she counted them. Not 10. Not 20. At least 50. And they were slowing down. The convoy of Harleys fanned out across the lanes, chrome gleaming beneath sheets of rain. Their jackets bore patches Emily couldn't quite make out in the blur, winged skulls, fire, lightning bolts. They weren't passing by. They were pulling over. One by one, engines rumbled to a halt around her van, headlights bathing her in blinding white. Emily's pulse hammered. She imagined headlines, "Mother and children disappear on highway." Her hands shook as she whispered, "Don't make a sound." A biker dismounted, boots splashing against the pavement. He towered in the storm, shoulders broad, beard streaked with gray. Tattoos crawled up his arms, rain dripping from his leather vest. He raised a hand, not in threat, but in greeting. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost fatherly. "Evening, ma'am. Looks like you're in a rough spot. Mind if we help?" Emily blinked through the rain, her breath caught in her chest. "We're fine," she stammered. "Please, just go." The man's eyes softened, catching the fear in her voice. He knelt low so her children could see him through the glass, his hands open. "Name's Buck," he said gently. "We don't hurt families. We help them." Another biker stepped forward, a tall woman with braided hair under her helmet. She tapped the window and smiled kindly at Emily's daughters. "Sweethearts, you cold in there?" One little head nodded. Emily's throat ached. Everything in her wanted to say no, to drive away, but the van was dead, and her kids were shivering. Buck tilted his head toward the convoy. "We got tools. We got blankets. Let us do what no one else would." The night hung heavy. Emily's fear battled with something else, hope. The rain softened to a mist as the bikers moved with quiet precision. Some formed a protective circle, bikes idling like guard dogs. Others popped the hood of the minivan, flashlights slicing through steam. Buck stayed kneeling by the window, voice low. "I know we look scary. But scary doesn't mean bad." Emily studied his face, lines carved deep, but eyes steady and kind. She cracked the window 2 inches. "The engine died," she whispered. Buck nodded, motioning to a younger rider already tinkering under the hood. "That's Rooster, best mechanic I know. He'll see what he can do." Emily's daughters leaned forward, eyes wide, as the biker woman slipped off her jacket and wrapped it around the shivering toddler. Liam exhaled for the first time in hours. The highway, once cruel and empty, suddenly felt like a fortress of roaring steel and unlikely angels. Rooster's flashlight beam cut across wires and wet metal. "Alternators shot," he muttered, wiping rain from his forehead. "Ain't going anywhere tonight without a tow." Emily's chest tightened. Tow trucks cost money she didn't have. She imagined the bill, her already thin paycheck collapsing under it. Buck glanced at her pale face and saw the storm behind her eyes. "Don't worry," he said firmly. "We've handled worse." He gave a sharp whistle. Another biker swung open a saddlebag, pulling out a folded tarp, dry blankets, and a thermos. "Get those little ones warm," Buck ordered. The woman with the braid knelt and whispered through the window, "We've got soup. Homemade." Emily's daughter's eyes brightened. Emily hesitated, pride and fear tugging her both ways. Then Liam whispered, "Mom, please." She unlocked the door with a trembling finger. And in that small sound of the latch, trust cracked open. Inside the van, warmth and kindness replaced fear. The biker woman, who introduced herself as Jo, carefully draped a wool blanket over Emily's children. Steam rose as she poured soup into paper cups, the smell of chicken and herbs filling the cramped space. Emily's hands shook as she accepted one for herself, the first hot meal she'd had all day. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why are you doing this?" Jo smiled softly. "Because no one else did." Outside, Buck and Rooster spoke in hushed tones, rain dripping from their beards. A plan was forming. The convoy wasn't leaving her here. Engines idled, headlights lit, like a wall against the darkness. Emily looked at her kids, color returning to their cheeks, fear fading into curiosity. She realized something astonishing. For the first time that night, she wasn't alone. 50 strangers had become her family's shield. The storm eased into silence, the smell of wet asphalt heavy in the air. Buck tapped the van door again. "Emily, right? You're not staying out here. We're escorting you into town." Her eyes widened. "All of you?" Buck grinned. "When we roll together." He signaled to his riders. Engines thundered, a sound that rattled the highway and announced power. Two bikers pulled a flatbed trailer from the back of the convoy. Rooster steered Emily's van onto it with practiced care. "We got a clubhouse 15 miles east," Buck explained. "Safe, warm, and free. Don't argue." Emily opened her mouth to protest, but Liam grinned for the first time all night. "Can we ride with them, Mom?" His excitement was contagious. She exhaled, a laugh slipping through her fear. "All right. Let's ride." The convoy roared approval, thunder rolling as one. The procession took shape, Emily and her children nestled in Buck's truck, her van secured on the flatbed, and 50 Harleys flanking every side like armored knights. Taillights stretched red into the misty dark, warning every passing car, "Don't mess with this family." Emily's daughters pressed their faces to the glass, mesmerized by the glowing columns of headlights. Liam whispered, "They're protecting us." Emily felt her throat tighten, tears welling again, but these were different tears. Not of fear, but of relief. Buck drove steady, one hand on the wheel, the other offering a gentle reassurance, "No one gets left behind on our watch." Outside, the storm broke, stars cutting through thin clouds. For the first time in months, Emily believed in miracles again, miracles wrapped in leather and roaring on steel. The convoy carved through the night, their thunder echoing over cornfields and silent farmhouses. Emily stared at the line of riders in the mirrors, 50 strong, shoulders squared against the world. Inside Buck's truck, the heater hummed. "You from Pine Hollow?" he asked gently. Emily nodded. "Born and raised. Never thought I'd be here." Buck chuckled. "Life puts us on shoulders we don't choose." His voice carried the weight of a man who'd seen hard roads. Liam leaned forward from the back seat. "Are you, like a gang?" Buck glanced at him in the mirror. "We're a family. Sometimes families chosen, not born." Emily studied his weathered hands gripping the wheel and realized, this wasn't menace. This was loyalty. Outside, the bikers rode 2 by 2, jackets gleaming with the name stitched bold, Iron Wings MC. The clubhouse sat on the edge of town, a converted warehouse with faded murals of wings and wills painted across its brick walls. As the convoy pulled in, the night came alive, dogs barked, lights flicked on, and men and women emerged to greet the riders. Emily braced herself for chaos. Instead, she saw warmth. A long wooden table waited inside, already set with plates and steaming pots. Kids darted between legs, laughter filling the air. Joe opened Emily's door and whispered, "Come on. You're safe here." Emily carried her toddler in, Liam guiding his sisters close. The smell of stew and fresh bread hit her like a wave. One of the bikers, bald with a crooked grin, crouched down and offered her youngest a toy truck. Emily blinked back tears. This wasn't a den of outlaws. It was a home. The children settled quickly, drawn in by games and gentle voices. Emily, though, hovered at the edge, unsure. Buck handed her a plate of food, steaming and rich. "Eat," he said simply. She hesitated, then took a bite. Flavor filled her mouth, warmth spreading down to her bones. For the first time in weeks, her stomach wasn't knotted with worry. Across the table, Joe leaned in. "I was where you are, once. Lost, broke, afraid." Emily studied her, tattoos, leather, but eyes full of light. And they helped you? Joe smiled. They saved me. Around them, laughter rose. A guitar strummed in the corner, a rough baritone carrying an old country song. Emily's kids joined the circle, their faces glowing in firelight. She pressed her hand to her heart. Tonight, strangers had turned into something rare, angels disguised in steel. Later, Buck led Emily outside into the quiet. The storm clouds had passed, leaving the moon sharp above the lot filled with lined-up Harleys. "What's weighing on you?" he asked. Emily's eyes dropped. "I can't pay for the tow. Or the food. Or this kindness." Buck shook his head. "You think this is about money?" His voice turned firm, but kind. "We've all been where you are. Road breaks down, life breaks down. People looked away from us too. That's why we don't look away from others." Emily's lip trembled. "Why me?" Buck leaned on his bike, staring at the stars. "Because you were left behind. And we don't leave people behind." His words carried the conviction of a creed, not just comfort. Emily realized this wasn't charity. It was principle. It was who they were. As dawn crept pale over Pine Hollow, the iron wings were already at work. Rooster and two others crouched under Emily's van, parts spread out like a puzzle. The women brewed coffee, packing lunch sacks for her children. Liam watched in awe, asking questions, his curiosity met with patient answers. "You ever fix bikes?" Rooster grinned, handing him a wrench. "Every day, kid. Wanna try?" Liam's face lit up. Emily stood in the doorway, clutching her coffee, her heart swelling. Her kids had gone from shivering on a highway to laughing in a garage full of outlaws who felt more like uncles and aunts than strangers. She whispered to herself, "It feels like family." And for the first time in years, she wasn't lying to herself. She meant it. By mid-morning, the van was humming again. Rooster tightened the last bolt and slapped the hood shut with a satisfied grin. "She'll run smoother than before." Liam cheered, his sisters clapping beside him. Emily covered her mouth, overcome. "I can't. I don't have anything to give you," she whispered. Buck crossed his arms. "You already gave us something." She frowned. "What?" He pointed to her children. "A reminder of why we ride. For them. For people who think no one cares." The simplicity of his words struck her harder than any sermon. She saw her kids laughing with bikers who hours ago she had feared, and knew this was bigger than broken metal. It was about mending something inside her that had been cracked for years. Before they left, Joe handed Emily a folded slip of paper. "Numbers to call if you ever need us. Day or night." Emily tucked it into her pocket like treasure. The convoy gathered outside, engines firing in unison. They weren't escorting her anymore, but they wanted to see her off. Buck leaned against his bike. "You'll drive home. We'll follow. Just until you're safe." Emily's throat tightened. "Why go so far for strangers?" Buck's beard twitched in a smile. "Because once, somebody went far for us." Emily climbed into her van. Her kids waved wildly out the windows. And 50 helmets dipped in return, like knights saluting. The ride back to Pine Hollow was unforgettable. Every car that passed slowed, drivers staring at the van shielded by a roaring army of chrome. Liam pressed his face to the glass, grinning as riders nodded at him like comrades. Emily felt pride bloom where shame had lived. For so long she had carried loneliness like a second skin. But as the convoy's reflection flashed across store windows and gas stations, she realized she was no longer invisible. People noticed. Not just her breakdown, but her worth. She wasn't a stranded mother anymore. She was the one protected by 50 iron wings. When they reached her street, the convoy slowed, engines rumbling softer. Neighbors peeked from curtains, astonished at the sight. Emily parked in front of her small rented house, children spilling out in laughter. Buck cut his engine last, stepping to her door. "This is where we leave you." Emily swallowed hard. "How do I thank you?" Buck's eyes crinkled. "Live. Raise those kids strong. That's thanks enough." He clasped her shoulder, steady and warm, before swinging onto his Harley. The engines roared once more. With a wave from Joe and a whistle from Rooster, the iron wings rolled away, thunder fading down the road. Silence followed, broken only by birdsong. Emily stood barefoot on the wet pavement, watching taillights vanish into the horizon. She held her children close, tears spilling freely, but not from despair. From gratitude. She glanced at the slip of paper in her hand, at the words scrawled beneath the club's emblem, "Ride safe. You're never alone." Her heart whispered back, "Neither are you." That night, as she tucked her kids into bed, Emily realized the truth. Sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they ride steel horses through the storm. And when the world looks away, they are the ones who stop. On that forgotten highway, Emily's story became a reminder to us all: kindness still thunders loud.